It is 12:59. Good afternoon. I'm Lucas Panzica from the Superbook.com sports desk. The Titans are off the practice field. They were in the bubble today due to weather, and will be back at it tomorrow at St. Thomas Sports Park as Titans training camp continues. One transaction was made this morning, signing defensive back Shakur Brown, most recently of the Pittsburgh Maulers in the USFL. Seattle Seahawks wide receiver DK Metcalf's hold-in has come to an end as the wideout agreed to a 3-year, $72 million extension with over $58 million guaranteed and a $30 million signing bonus, the highest ever for a wide receiver. Fall camp in the SEC officially starts today. Vanderbilt getting underway. Tennessee football will hit the practice field on Monday. And Nashville Soccer Club returns home to Geodis Park Saturday night, hosting Vancouver a 7:30 kickoff. Titans rookie tight end Chig Okonkwo joining the Blaine and Mickey Show coming up in just a couple of minutes. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Blaine and Mickey 104.5 The Zone. This is the most people we've ever had in the studio for a Blaine and Mickey show, and none of them are Blaine. This is really strange. 1 o'clock on Friday, so Buck Rising is going to join us next. He's in here wearing a raincoat in case the weather gets inclement in the studio.
It was raining when we went to practice today. What do you want from me?
Nothing. I want you to just keep being yourself.
Well, I haven't worked at all today. I feel like Lucas and Will have basically been me all week long.
That's good work if you can get it.
So I felt
that's good non-work if you can get it.
I felt like I should just like physically sit in the studio longer, like tracking Kyler Murray, how much time he spends on his iPad. I'm sure they got something hooked up to me to physically see how long I've been in the studio today.
I think what's hooked up to you to physically see how much you can consume or this giant box of donuts that's in the studio. It's ironic that you don't usually come in the studio. It's like, oh, there's Buck with donuts. That's interesting.
No. I'm not the person.
A coincidence?
It was a coincidence today. I walked in. There's a giant open box of donuts in front of me, and I won't lie to you. They're little ones. I had one or two.
I think you mispronounced 6. Lucas Panzica is here. Alex Apple is filling in for the Hitman, and he is here. Brett Batchelor and CJ are both in the control room. Again, if you
Brett's across the hall, we
could vote on anything. This has to be like a quorum of station employees that we have here. So if there's any station business we need to get done, we could go ahead and knock that out. Chig Okonkwo is set to join us here. I don't know.
Any second.
In like 28 seconds. So we'll see if he calls in on time. He had another good practice today. Rhett Bryan used the great training camp phrase, stacking practices in the hallway out here. Our illustrious Rhett Bryan. We need to just drag him in here, too, and have a 7th person.
Might as well.
Stacking practices, Chig Okonkwo. So the rookie tight end continues to fit nicely into this offense and is showing the ability, not just the speed that, like, oh, gosh, this guy's 4.52 at the combine fast. He's shown the ability to get in and out of breaks.
A little more nuance to his game.
Yes, and shown some nuance with his routes. So our own Buck Rising, who again will join us in the next segment, tweeted about, I noticed this today, the Titans stock is going up on third down options. There are a lot of people who can catch those passes.
And the knock on Chig coming into training camp, Buck, I don't know if you have a good measure on this, was that hands, okay. If you read his draft profile, that's what it says, short arms, hands, okay. To my knowledge, I haven't seen any egregious drops from him. He's looked the part in that respect.
I mean, I watched him in Maryland. I didn't really I think early when he first got to campus, I think that was a thing. But no, I feel good about all their options. Mickey, I'm sure you saw the situational football drills that they were running today. Mm-hmm. 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7. You've got Robert Woods who converts. You've got Traylon Burks who runs an outbreaking route, makes a nice catch with Caleb Farley in coverage, converts. Chig and Hooper getting involved. They have, if they're going to continue to run the ball on 1st and 2nd down and put themselves in these positions, then at least now they have adequate weaponry to be able to convert if they're going to be in 3rd and 6 plus as much as any team in the league last year. But of course, that relies on protection.
Maybe it's revisionist history in my mind, or I just had it wrong. I looked up their third down conversion rate last year was 42%, which was 11th in the league. I mean, maybe it is just the games felt different. That it did not feel that they were that successful last year on that making. So that surprised me today. I was fully expecting to look that up and get a more pessimistic number.
And see something in the 30s, maybe.
Or something not in the top 11.
Okay.
Not in the top 20.
Oh, I mean, Mickey, I don't know how you felt about this, but I've been talking about that all year. Their offense wasn't bad. It just wasn't good, and it wasn't fun to watch.
We had a long discussion about this yesterday, and again, Chig Okonkwo should be on with us anytime. I know we're excited to hear from him. I think he's going to be under a time crunch, so this
There you
may
go.
be.
Looks
Here
like
we
it's
go.
coming
I see
through.
the phone ringing. So we'll get with Chig soon. Then we can pick this subject up on the other side with Buck Rising, but I can see the hotline ringing, and I think he's got to be off, Lucas, around 10 after with us or something like that. He's got a meeting. So Chig Okonkwo, we got him. He's good to go. The Titans rookie tight end from Maryland joins us now. Chig, how in the world are you doing, man? 3 practices in the book with the full squad. How are you feeling?
I feel great. I'm loving it. Everything's going well so far.
We were having a discussion about you in the hallway today, and one of the great cliches of training camp is used about you. He's stacking practices. That's a super good thing, though, when people say that. You are doing that, man.
Yeah, man. It's just a one day at a time mentality is what we take here. So it's just keep going one day at a time. Don't look too far in the future. Just keep stacking days.
All right, I have to ask you about this, and I thought, okay, maybe I'll ask him early, maybe I'll ask him late. When you were at Maryland, 52 receptions as a senior, the only tight end at Maryland who ever had more catches than that in a season. Do you know who that is?
Frank Wycheck.
Yeah, man, Frank Wycheck. I mean, what about the history of you and Mr. Frank Wycheck, and now you get a chance to follow in his footsteps here?
Yeah, that's cool. That's really cool. It's funny, always seeing his name up in our room, and not knowing like, oh yeah, who's Frank Wycheck, and then all that happened, and now I'm here with the Titans just like he was. So yeah, it's really cool to be able to go down that same path. It's kind of funny and ironic, yeah.
And well, I'm sure Titans fans are all hoping that you can have that same career as a tight end out of Maryland, because Frank sure was an all-time great here. Chig Okonkwo, Titans rookie tight end, joining Alex Apple and me here on Blaine and Mickey.
Hey, Chig, I'm curious. Anything so far in training camp that you've been asked to do more with the Titans or in a different way than you were at Maryland? I know between you, going from a college system to a pro system can engender quite a bit of change. Anything stand out for you so far?
Not really. I'm just moving around to every single spot, just like I did, in Maryland. So I feel like Maryland prepared me very well, because I feel like I'm a versatile player. So going all over the field and doing the same thing. So it's very nice to be able to do those same things here.
What do you think will take you more time to get used to speed-wise at the pro level, the route running or the blocking element?
I'll say I've always, naturally been a route runner like my entire life. So I'll say it's probably the blocking, with, a lot of, these are grown men now, so it's a lot bigger bodies, a lot faster. So that'll probably take me more so than the routes, but everything's been going, pretty well so far.
And then I got to ask you, too, because your family is Nigerian, correct? That's your heritage?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I've had authentic Nigerian food twice in my life. Now, it's different. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. I'm a big cassava guy. Fufu,
Yeah.
and I forget what the other one was called. It was more of like a fried
Okay.
cassava.
Yeah.
Is that cooked often in your family?
Yeah, man. Fufu is cooked all the time growing up. Probably ate that like 2 to 3 times a week, man. Fufu and rice.
Is there a Nigerian dish
Every
you would
day.
recommend?
Oh, for sure, jollof rice.
Okay, good. I'm going to put
That's
that on my
our
need to
main,
have.
That's our main staple, jollof rice.
Chig Okonkwo, our guest. So is there some place in Nashville where we can get this delicacy that you're discussing with us here? You got any options for that here?
I actually don't know. I actually have not looked into that yet. That's actually something that I'm going to look into now. Now that you just said that.
I had it in Dallas. There was an authentic Nigerian place. It was really good.
Well, we can't send him to
It treated
Dallas.
my-
I mean,
no.
we got to
Well,
find him a
then
spot
maybe
here,
like
have him open
Cowboys,
one.
I'll refer you to it, but I loved that cuisine.
All right, Chig, I got to
I'm
ask you
gonna look
this.
around.
Anytime people see Nashville on TV, they think we all have on cowboy hats and boots and things like that, and everybody lives out on a farm. What have your what did you think about Nashville before you got here? And now that you are here, what are your observations of the city?
Before I got here, I just thought, man, country music, cowboy boots, cowboy hats. And then when I got here, I realized that, most people that I've been interacting with are actually like all in the same boat as me. Like they're actually not from Nashville. So
Yes.
Yeah, that is.
And so yeah, but like if you go downtown, like you'll see that cowboy hats, cowboy boots, and there were party buses everywhere. So that was a very interesting thing when I first got here. I didn't know it was gonna be like that. I didn't know how big of a party city that Nashville was. I didn't think it was that deep in partying. But yeah, that was a really fun and cool aspect that I saw when I went downtown.
Was there anything that you thought, okay, or once even that you got here and you'd been here a couple of days, is there like a restaurant where you think, I have got to go there, or a place or a club or just something where you're thinking, I cannot wait to check out this part of Nashville?
For me, yeah, it was that downtown area because that's what everybody told me that it was like it was gonna be popping. So as soon as I got here, I literally went down. I think the first place I ate was called Distillery.
Yeah.
I went down there. I ate at the Distillery, and that was really good. You know, me and Kyle Phillips went down there together and ate. So yeah, that was the number one thing I did when I first got here.
Whose advice in the locker room would you take most if you had to get recommendations on where to go?
Probably Jeff Swain. I bet.
Okay.
Wow, I wouldn't have guessed that.
Very, very intelligent dude. So I would definitely respect his opinion on anything.
Now, how much is he helping you, not just on, life choices and where to go, but, how to run routes and, block and all those kind of things?
Oh, dude, he's literally helping me with everything. Like, it's so nice to have him over there, like, because he's so smart. He explains everything down to like the most little detail, and he just teaches me how to play faster. He's like, you need to look at these things. These things can help you play quicker, so you don't have to even think about, what anybody's saying on the field. You can just look at it yourself, because he's very smart, and yeah, he's been helping me a ton, especially in the run game.
Everyone always talks about just different level, different speed of the game. Sometimes it's faster than guys thought. Sometimes it's, seems a little slower to him. It comes to him quickly. Where are you on that spectrum?
Yeah, it's, we went through the whole spring, so now it's like everything feels normal now. It's just more so, on the back end kind of stuff. You have to think more. You can't just like run your route. You have to actually like think when you're running your route. Like, oh, the picture might change, because they do a lot of disguises and stuff. So that's one thing that's new.
All right, I know you only got like 30 more seconds because you got a meeting, but I went to rookie mini camp, and we all knew you were fast. You were 4.52 at the combine, and then I saw how big you were. And somebody asked me to describe you. I said, like, the bottoms of your legs are the size of the tops of other people's legs. Like, if your legs are like that, Chig, like, where do you buy jeans? Like, I can go to, Old Navy. Where do you buy jeans?
Dude, that's literally the funniest thing that you said. Because like I literally can't buy jeans. Like, I can't buy jeans online. Like, I have to be able to go in the store and try them on. Because there's so many times I buy stuff online, I'm just like, bro, I can't even get this past my thighs. Like, I literally have to wear, like, go to stores and try them on every time.
Because I said, okay, here's Chig. The bottom of his legs are like the tops of other people's legs, and then the tops of his legs are like waists for people. So I just didn't figure you could walk in and pull something off the rack and have much luck.
Yeah, no way.
Hey, man, we know you got a meeting. I know you were just squeezing us in. Look, we're enjoying watching what you're doing, and you look great so far, and just continued success. And hopefully we can get you in and talk a little bit longer, and by that time you'll have found yourself some good restaurants around here.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Yes,
We
sir.
appreciate it.
Chig Okonkwo. Yeah, that's the first thing.
That's question of the week right there, Mickey.
Because I got two kids, and it's like a big thing you always worry about is where are we going to buy their clothes? Like what do they like and what fits them? And my son only wears like things made out of sport material, and then my daughter wants things that only look like somebody else has worn them for 7 years. Or
Yeah. I'm an odd shape. My arms are too long, so I can't buy any shirts.
yeah, well,
They're hanging out off the rack.
okay. See, everybody's
First world problems here, baby.
first world problems, but yeah, he sounded troubled by that. Like you have no idea.
Yeah, you hit
I got to
one
go
there. He knows. Yeah.
I mean, they
You
said
were
that.
sympathizing with him.
Well, again, I don't have that problem. There's no problems, no jeans being too small for me. So, all right, here's what we'll do. Buck Rising is set to join us next. Fun catching up with Chig Okonkwo. He had a really good day today. Now, we'll get into a full practice report. They were in the bubble turf. The dirt in the turf now isn't ground up tires and tennis balls anymore. It's coconut hulls.
husks.
So it doesn't smell like you're in a Bridgestone Firestone outlet in there anymore. This kind of smells, I don't know, like what? We'll ask Buck Rising what it smells like, and we'll ask his observations through 3 days of practice. We'll also ask him where does he buy his jeans. We'll do all that next. Blaine and Mickey. Well, I'll tell you who else is aces every time, and that's Everseal. Man, what a fantastic company. Here's the thing you need to remember about Everseal. So a lot of you've bought a house and, you have the expense of buying the house, and you look outside and you go, gosh, I got this nice fence, or I got a deck or patio, maybe the driveway. It's that, nice aggregate surface. Well, here's what the weather of Tennessee does. I'm just going to tell you, it hates all that stuff. It hates it. It wants to rot every board that you've got. It wants to crack all the concrete, knock all the little rocks off your aggregate, and it just wants to laugh and then go do it to your neighbor after that. Well, Everseal is like a superhero that guards your house all the time. Think about that. A superhero that keeps all that wood from cracking and warping and rotting and all that concrete from cracking. It's an amazing substance, and it goes on all the surfaces outside your home. And all that stuff costs a lot of money, so why not protect it? And you can protect it up to 25 years with Everseal. It's the industry standard. Heck, it is the standard for all industries. So why not call them, get an estimate to seal it all forever. 25-year manufacturer-backed warranty. Ever-seal.com, ever-seal.com. That's where you need to go today. And we're back. Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone. Alex Apple hanging out on a Friday for the Hitman. Hitman will be back next week. So if you see him in the street, tell him Mickey from Harrisburg said hey.
Was that "And We're Back" Bud Adams?
No.
We need to get Rhett in here and do the Bud Adams. It's
Jimmy
the best I've heard.
Fallon. Yes, Rhett has spent all of training camp in character.
He's perfected that thing.
As KS
It's
Bud
the
Adams.
every
which has
2
been
words
interesting.
breath. You can only get 2 words out before you got to take another big breath in.
Buck, what'd you learn about Chig Okonkwo, other than where he buys his pants? He just joined us off the top.
I learned what you did today. I thought Chig was great at practice today. I don't want to, get into repeats, but yeah. I mean, talk about third down options that they have and how they can kind of get back to running a more sustainable offensive game plan. They ran more 11 personnel, 3 wide receiver sets last year than they had at any point since Matt LaFleur was here. And, because of roster attrition, injuries across the board, and you're having to figure out how to make things work with certain kinds of personnel on any given week. And that's football anyway, but without competency, just baseline competency at the tight end position. No, I don't think that's unfair.
I think that's calling a spade a spade.
Especially for how regularly the tight ends were not involved in third down passing situations because they had to be kept in to block to help either Lawan, which is a problem, or Quessenberry. And it was a substantial amount of time. Lucas and I talked about this, the amount of chips that the running backs and tight ends were asked to do, and a lot of it to the left side. That's not something that this offense that's going to be sustainable, especially if you're going to run the ball as frequently on early downs as they like to do.
Buck Rising, our guest, his own show, Buck Rising Show, and A to Z Sports.
Not today.
Install with Greg Cosell. He is brought to you by Two Rivers Ford, home of the non-commissioned sales people.
Mm-hmm.
So, Chig Okonkwo, you tweeted this earlier. You mentioned third down options. There was a real nice, super hot, just blink of an eye throw to Robert Woods today and got 4 or 5 yards. There was one to Austin Hooper, who I've predicted is going to catch 65 7-yard passes this year, although I've amended that to 65 6-yard passes.
Okay.
But he caught one of those today.
So 65 6-yard passes.
Yeah.
So he's the new Jason Witten, is what you're alleging. Like just a little button hook, the undefeated button hook until the end of time.
Because, oh man, you just brought up a great thing.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of teams have a player and a play that's what they call when the poo hits the fan. That the only thing they've had down here for how many years is hand the ball to 22.
Yeah.
Like that's it.
That was their whole first half of the season strategy. I don't know what else is going to work. Give the ball to Derek.
Remember us all sitting in the press box one day and they were down 2 scores in the third quarter and just went right back to handing it to him. We were like, well, what an interesting hurry up offense. What an interesting come from behind offense. We just keep handing it to 22, hoping he hits a big one.
Yeah, but they've been that. Like that's been a frustration. I remember sitting next to some Chiefs reporters during that Kansas City game back in 19, and the 2-minute offense was Derek. And
they were like,
the Chiefs,
what?
The Kansas City reporters are looking around like, what are they doing? And I'm like, listen, it works more often than not. I guess we'll see. And then, ideally you wouldn't need Rashaan Evans scoop and score or Josh Kalu blocking a field goal to keep them from going to overtime.
Recently returned Josh Kalu.
Yeah, he looks so much better in 28 than he did in 46. 46 was horrendous. I'm glad that he had to go away for a season so he could come back and get a better number. But it's probably the biggest question of their season. How does the offense rebound? And then when you start to do, like in radio, topic trees, right? When you start to branch off at what makes the offense go and what pieces are going to be required to make the offense go, well, how do they evolve, first and foremost? Because the easiest down to throw is first down. And yet they do that less than anybody in the sport. Anybody at all. They like to run the ball on first down. They like to run the ball on second down. They need to find ways, and that'll be a part of Tim Kelly's job, who, by the way, spends a tremendous amount of time with the tight ends. I don't know if you noticed that or not, Mickey, but he is over there basically the entire practice, which I find interesting. The passing game coordinator who will see what additional ideas he can give them to help them be a more efficient, more modernized version of the offense that they currently are.
To modernize and be efficient, your debate on your show a couple days ago now I thought was really interesting about this, requires them to, maybe it's tempo, it's getting Ryan Tannehill in a rhythm. Have you seen anything these first 4 days that makes you think they're figuring out how to do that better?
Well, I think that this is not necessarily the best time to apply that because I think we are seeing it. Yes, we're seeing it, but it's not specific. We're seeing a lot of stuff right now because it's training camp, right? They're not game planning. They're running that. Now, I haven't seen tempo. Not in the team sessions. I haven't seen tempo yet, but we're 3 days in.
So early. Sure.
Yeah. So I think it's something to continue to monitor, but I think for people listening, there's only so much that's applicable to the season in the first week of training camp.
But when I think there's a misconception sometimes with folks listening that tempo doesn't necessarily just mean snapping the ball more quickly, right?
Yeah.
That's not the only thing you get from that. So when you say that tempo would help this offense, explain again what you mean by that.
So I mean that for Ryan Tannehill to be able to operate at a more comfortable level, you give him a package of plays that allows him to, yes, snap the ball without huddling, but basically just to get into a rhythm. Open or empty sets, rather, quick passes, just first read, hit it, and go. Keep the momentum going, almost, to an extent like the Tennessee Volunteers offense, right? Where without running the risk of as often or of a 3 and out occurring as often as it does for the Vols in a college game. You want to be able to give the quarterback the thing that all quarterbacks require, or at least the vast majority of them, is a rhythm, a sense of, okay, a flow, basically. I know that I'm going to be able to go to X here on 1st and 10. We're going to come right over here on 2nd and 4. We're going to convert so we stay at a 3rd down and keep it moving. Stay ahead of the change. Ideally, you want to play as few 3rd downs as humanly possible. Converting 3rd downs is nice, but for an offense like this that plays so often behind the downs, you want to try and avoid that as much as humanly possible. That's the kind of stuff that I reference, or what that I mean when I reference something like tempo.
Yeah, Mick, we got into this debate yesterday and talked about the 2019 was Ryan Tannehill's most efficient season. It was his first of with the Titans, those 10 games or whatever that was in regular season.
Mm-hmm.
Throwing to a cast of characters that there was nothing to write home about that group. It was Corey Davis. It was a rookie A.J. Brown, Adam Humphries. What did you say it was?
Deion
yesterday?
Lewis,
The top
Tajay Sharp.
pass catcher caught 52 passes, right?
AJ.
But it seems like, reading between the lines, they have signed Kyle Phillips, Chig, Austin Hooper, even Traylon Burks, who 44% of the routes that he ran at Arkansas were slant, flats, or screens that do most of their work within 5 yards of the line of scrimmage. And
It's
you
a good
get them the
stat,
ball.
by the way.
And I read that on Reception Perception. Shout out to that guy that puts those things together. 44% within 3 yards of the line of scrimmage, 5 yards of the line of scrimmage. It sure seems like that is a targeted approach to, I don't know if that means changing your offense, but to being better at having the short passing game being an extension of your running game.
It's Brady. It's New England Brady, right? It's
Death by 8,000 paper cuts.
Yeah, but move the ball. Continue to move the ball.
Sure.
We'd all take that.
Victory by attrition, basically. Except your attrition is the running back ages, and you start, now they've never expressed at any given point that they are at all willing to back off Derrick Henry's carries or attempts in a game. So that would require some kind of self-reflection and being like, okay, we can't give him the ball, or he can't touch the ball 29 times as he
In perpetuity.
That's a straight up average. He was averaging 29 touches.
He was on pace for
game.
465 carries.
It's disgusting.
Yeah, 465.
It's disgusting.
Somebody put in the chat the other day that you didn't like Derrick Henry for suggesting that was a bit high. That was my favorite contribution of the week.
There's always going to be somebody. And to that person, I say, I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
Buck Rising awarding no points as he joins us here on Blaine and Mickey. Do you think Ryan Tannehill is ready to go back to that 2019/2020 Tannehill?
Sure, if Todd Downing puts him in a position to do so.
With the help of?
Derek being primarily the help, but
I'm
think
thinking of Mr. Kelly.
Oh, the help of Tim Kelly.
Yeah.
I think that Ryan Tannehill is going to be deemed success or failure as the offense goes. Like it's as much about the collection as it is about the individual. It's like criticizing Shane Bowen after 2020, rightfully so, or criticizing Todd Downing after 2021. Like, that's the easiest face to put on it. Ryan Tannehill, what's wrong with the offense? Well, that guy, that bleeping guy, 3 interceptions in a playoff game. That guy stinks. When it's so much more than that. And when a lot of the issues that they were having, Todd Downing, personnel restrictions, a legitimate excuse, but we all knew what was going to happen every time. And it's not like 2019 where, the whole league knows what you're going to do, but you can't stop it. Like, that was the difference. The explosive plays, how Todd Downing figures out how to put the playmakers in space, Woods, Burks, Chig, Hooper, Henry even. If you got to throw him more flare passes out to the side, just get Derrick in space. Don't run him in I formation into the defense time after time after time for him to get stuffed or stopped at the line of scrimmage more than any other player in the sport last year. Get him in space. That's Todd Downing's charge this year.
That question that you just brought, Mickey, and opens the way to an interesting discussion, though, because what else was different from 2019? If you are asking, is he going to be 2019 Tannehill? Well, the big thing that they had going for him down the stretch in 2019 was nobody stops Derrick Henry. Last year's in the playoffs, maybe you give him a little bit of a break last year given the injury. They were not that effective running the ball.
No.
It did not generate enough points. They've scored in the teens. They've yet to hit 20.
I wrote an article
what was
about
the biggest difference, though, Buck, that maybe you wrote about it in your article? What is the biggest difference between what made that running game successful then that they've not been able to duplicate? Because you would put money on it in Vegas that if that running game is more successful, your quarterback will be too.
Let me pull out the Bible real quick because I got the answer in here. The Football Outsiders Football Almanac ahead of the season. Now, Football Outsiders makes a lot of people in this city cringe a little bit, but not when I open up to the page about the Tennessee Titans and their offensive line specifically, because that's, the root of all evil or good at this point.
I feel like we should have some ominous music playing at this point.
When I pull out the Bible or the football Bible?
When you mention the O-line and Football Outsiders, I feel like there needs to be something to accompany
It's
this.
some story time music at least.
The Titans had one of the league's highest blown block rates, resulting in increased pressure on Ryan Tannehill and diminished run blocking returns. They were missing assignments. They weren't finishing the blocks the way that you would like for them to do. What made the 2019 run so successful?
Here we go.
Now you choose to be good with the audio?
Lucas had to run in there and
He had to drop his lamb
cue up what he
kebab or
was
whatever he
thinking.
was
No,
eating
what did
over
he
here to
eat?
do
Taco
this.
salad.
Taco
Okay.
salad.
That was not fair of me to take a shot at Brett. I couldn't see behind me. I didn't know Lucas was back there yet.
All right, let's hear it.
I'm locked in on this.
Blown
The
block
highest
rate.
blown block pace. Missed assignments in the run game.
Those pressures turned into sacks at one of the highest rates in the league and also rendered Derrick Henry and that rushing attack far less efficient than it had been in the previous 2 seasons. Run left, right? That was the whole thing. Run left. Lawan, Saffold. Run left was a hell of a lot less efficient. It's really loud. It's really loud, the music. All right, thank you. But Nate Davis, Roger Saffold, Taylor Lewan, the 3 best Titans offensive linemen, all had the most consistent struggles across the board throughout the season. Taylor, we know the issues. Roger, inconsistent health. And Nate, COVID to start the year, and then 2 different stints with concussions that disrupted the ability of the offensive line. The blown block rate, the highest in the league. That's the thing that you have to watch for the Tennessee Titans. That's when Mike Vrabel talks about fundamentals and technique and all these different things. They know this as much as we do. I've cited this probably way too many times, but it's the best example of that I have. Pittsburgh, first play of the game, 70-yard touchdown pass, in all likelihood to Julio Jones, except Aaron Brewer and Dontrell Hilliard. They blow the protection, 9-yard sack instead of a 70-yard touchdown to Julio, which would have been at that point his first of the season.
Yeah, wow.
Do
That lays it out.
We can't say who's been at left guard and right tackle, can we? I don't think we can. Has it been said publicly?
Yeah,
I've
we've
not
talked
been there,
about
so
it.
I can tell you what he's been asked.
Yeah, well, we've
Radens and Brewer.
yeah.
Okay.
We can say that.
Okay. Do you feel like they can help fix this BBR, the blown block race, along with a COVID and concussion-free Nate Davis, who looks really good, like physically looks great?
He does look good.
Or Lawan, who's now further in the rearview mirror of the knee injury, and an Aaron Brewer, who knows he's the starter every week, if that's the case, or what? Can this crew clean that up?
So it's funny because they cite in Football Outsiders, they cite Dylan Radin specifically, filled in some at guard and got 1 start at left tackle. Now, if I told you Dylan Radin's 1 start at left tackle against the San Francisco 49ers, Joey Bosa switch sides, all these different things, right? All these different conversations we were having, would you say that Dylan Radin's played well against San Francisco?
The narrative has certainly been that he did. I have a feeling you're about to tell us he did.
Dylan Radin's in Week 16 did not go particularly well. 4 blown blocks and a sack allowed, a false start against San Francisco. They gave him all kinds of help. All kinds of help that made that performance look substantially better than it went. Brewer is my questionberry this year. Brewer is the guy I'm looking at me like, I really wish they could do something better at that spot, but that's the options that they've left themselves, so that's probably the best thing that they got going. Respectfully to both David Questenberry and Aaron Brewer, because both did well to earn their opportunities. But at a certain point, Mike's used that line about don't want to rely on talent.
You
All
need
well
some
and good.
talent.
But where you are clearly and obviously talent deficient, as all football teams have some kind of position that has that, with Ryan Tannehill being in the spot that he is, and frankly, just the longevity of Derrick Henry, the offensive line is not a place where you can afford to skimp. And I think that's my biggest skepticism about Aaron Brewer right now.
Brewer played 508 snaps last year. That's the 70th most amongst offensive linemen. But he gave up 6 sacks, which would be the 6th most.
A
Not very
rather
good rate there.
disappointing 3.6% blown block rate. So on 3.6% of his snaps at guard last year, he's missing it.
And I think Brewer is important. And I know Ramon Foster, I listened to him this morning, said he thinks that is the seminal position to watch for him in training camp. I don't disagree with that because you've got to find something serviceable there. But I would also posit that without a really strong season from Nate Davis and Taylor Lewan, it doesn't really matter how good Aaron Brewer is because your issues are way more vast than just who's playing at that left guard spot. Agree or disagree with that?
You're the guest, Buck. Do you want to take this first, and then
No,
I'll
it's your show, buddy. I'm here. I am here to serve at your leisure.
Taylor Lewan doesn't have to be the top left tackle or top 5 or top 10 anymore. He just needs to be a healthy guy who plays every week and plays at a good starter caliber. I don't think they're expecting him to be the guy that wore the Boss Hog suit anymore and got paid all those millions. He hasn't been that guy. But he can be a guy who's a really good player for you every week.
But I don't think there's a reason he can't be a top 10 left tackle. Do you think that's now out of the realm of possibilities?
No, he's not like old. He's 31.
No. I think they need him to be a top 10. I think that's too generous, Mick. I think they need him to be a top 10 left
Agreed. Tackle. I'm inclined to agree with that because it frees you up so much. Mick, again, I come back to the third down situations where they're having to keep extra guys in a block as opposed to letting them go as receivers. And you're losing the numbers battle right out the gate to the defense because you know that you have to keep in that extra help to chip. They have to be able to let Taylor win individually, one-on-one, the way that he is hugely capable of. Last year, he was average to below average by any kind of metric that is studied around offensive line. And while his paycheck or his salary, I know people still cite it. It is that, by the way, of an average NFL offensive tackle.
It is now
at this point in the way that the market has inflated around offensive linemen. But yes, he needs to be substantially better, not just for them, but for him. If he wants to continue to play here, it can't look like that anymore.
It does make me think, Mick, too, about the discussion that we had about the defensive line. If you want to sign Jeffrey Simmons to $22 million a year and have 4 extremely expensive, albeit very good players on the defensive line, how much money can you spend on the offensive line? You need Lewan to continue to succeed under his contract. You need Davis to be good. You probably need one of these 2 guys who we don't know who's going to start, probably Brewer and Radens, to be pretty freaking good. Because I don't see much flexibility forthcoming there.
You don't think Jamarco Jones
unless you're just going to do it through the draft. I'm just saying if it doesn't work out that well this year.
Well, the nutty thing is, it's not like they haven't spent a lot of draft capital. You know, the Panda draft capital didn't work.
That's the problem. They're chasing.
Raiden's draft capital hasn't really worked, and they've had Blaine wanted to talk about this one day this summer. We did most underrated Titans, and 2 of the guys that I pulled out were linemen who started like 120-plus games who were 4th and 5th and 6th round picks. Benji Olsen
David
and Big
Stewart,
Country, yes.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, what about Nicholas Petit-Frere?
Michael Roos.
It's a 3rd round pick. I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility. Teams have guys who are picked at that level who become stars. Well, I don't even think we've said his name other than he got drafted by the team, and he's a fun interview.
Do you have a read on how the team sees him coming into training camp? Like
tackle. He can't play inside.
Yeah.
He can't play inside. That's not something that just from like people you talk to on the Titan staff, that's something coming out of Ohio State. That's something you talk to coaches around the league about. Like he has ability and he can play both sides, which makes him an asset, but there are fundamental things, and basically his technique is not indicative of somebody like Dennis Kelly, who started on the inside and then eventually moved out to tackle, even though he is more a prototypical tackle size. That's not who Petit-Frere is.
Do you like we all like versatility of Traylon Burks. Do you like Traylon Burks as a punt returner? That scares me to death.
I would roast them. I would roast them the way that we went at them. I didn't have a radio show yet, but certainly I was vocal about it in 2019 when they continued to put Adoree back there. to return punts until that wretched rain-soaked Jacksonville game that we needed windshield wipers basically in the press box to see how many times Calais Campbell was ragdolling Marcus Mariota in his teeth like a dog with a toy. It took until that moment for Mike Vrabel, a muffed punt, which basically lost them the game for as poorly as they played, to pull the trigger on that. If they put one of their most important assets of the 2022 season out there to return punts when Kyle Phillips is so much clearly and obviously better at what that job requires, then yes, I have significant questions. But I think it's just about general, like, multi-sport. You know how you talk about multi-sport training among kids who are younger? Like, I think it's just multi-dimensional training that they can provide at a time when it's not that critical, where training camp is important, obviously, but, like, it's okay if you work on some hand-eye coordination drills with Traylon Burks by having him field punts. Like, I think that's more what this is.
Maybe in a pinch, you throw him back there if hell freezes over.
Oh, yeah, it's like Gronk in coverage for the pass.
But something's gone wrong.
Yes, that's fair. Something has gone wrong if that happens. Well, a couple people are getting me pretty good about Lewan. I'm not saying he can be bad and they can be good. I'm saying if he's top 15, I don't think he necessarily has to be. But if you ask me, do I think if he's fully healthy, because he looks like he's dropped some weight to me. He gave up social media. I know he did an interview.
He keeps harassing me at training camp about how good his conditioning is, so we damn well better be in good condition when I see him.
He is running to finish every drill. He's running from drill to drill because they blew the whistle early on a drill, and he ran to the next drill, and they were like, no, go back. And he goes, I just ran this far for nothing. But he seems to be a guy who is fully engaged, is doing all these things that help prolong your career and help you get to a certain level. So do I believe he can be top 10 this year? Absolutely.
And I think he needs to be, because you're looking at a guy whose athleticism was elite at the position. He's 31. I'm 31. It's not left me entirely yet. It doesn't leave most 31-year-olds up. And he's a lot more athletic than I am. It's a shame to even be compared to him. So I think that the expectation is for him to be, like Buck said it, you can't have to help.
No.
If you have to help, Austin Hooper is, you could have had Jeff Swaim help.
I talk a lot of trash to Lewan. I'm not worried about him. I think he's going to be fine. As much as I like to rib him, I think he's going to be fine.
Well, we think you're going to be fine, and Buck, we think your weekend starts now.
Oh, hell no. What do you mean? I got practice 8 to 1 tomorrow, Mick. I don't have weekends.
Your Friday night starts now. Your Friday night starts now.
Not till next June, baby.
That's true for all of us. All right, Buck Rising.
Thanks
again,
for hanging
Two
out.
Rivers. Ford making that happen. What happened at practice today? We'll get into that next. A surprise guy who I think had a really good day. I'll share that next. So in Nashville, we got certain businesses that are just kind of part of the community, right? They call Nashville home, just like you and I. And one of those businesses that we know and love, Firestone brand, Bridgestone Americas. Nashville is their home, and they are so proud of it. And Sunday, August 7th, the stage is set for, well, let's be honest, one of the biggest shows that Music City streets have ever seen. Maybe the biggest. It's the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix. Man, this thing is awesome. And making its IndyCar racing debut, the first Firestone Firehawk race tire with a rubber sidewall made 100% from the American-grown Waiuli plant. Yep, American ingenuity right there. It's just one way Firestone is helping to sustain the sport that so many people have grown to know and love. And it's a part of a larger tire family. It helps support Bridgestone's E8 commitment to a more sustainable future for all. So you want to hear more about the race, you can tune into our broadcast coming up August 4th, live from the Bridgestone Tower. Firestone, you need them on your car. They are the exclusive tire of the Big Machine Music City Grand Prix. Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone. Alex Apple hanging out on a Friday for the Hitman. Lucas Panzica hanging out in the studio. Brett Batchelor producing. You can join the discussion if you want to. Mark Spain Real Estate Hotline is open, 615-737-1045. We will call our shot for the final segment of today's show. So be thinking about a shot that you want to call. Could be Titans related. Maybe you got Titans related. Maybe you're going to say Chig Okonkwo is going to catch 60 passes this year. What about that? Or Ryan Tannehill is going to throw for 4,000 yards or something. You want to put something like that in the Zone TV chat? Go ahead. Also, we got a little game we're going to play in the next hour. We're going to play either or. Like, which one of these things do you think is a better chance of happening? We had a little text strand going yesterday, and I think some of them are really good. I think all of them are really good. So what's your thoughts on that?
Sort of along that line, how would you and I thought Chig was really good. Appreciated the time he gave us earlier in the hour. If you missed that, you can rewind the stream, or it'll probably be out on your podcast feeds eventually. How do you define a good season for Chig? I mean, it is very rare that a tight end comes and puts up big numbers in a rookie season. Jonnu Smith's rookie season, go back and look at those stats. It takes some time to adjust. Chig was not a first-round draft pick. He was not a complete prospect coming out. He's a good prospect, but it's probably going to take him some time to adjust. The point of my saying that is, how would you define a good season for him? You've been out there for 3 days. It's early, but your expectation has been calibrated to what so far?
His speed is really something to watch, and I think that's the thing that we were all so focused on. Was like, gosh, this guy's fast. Gosh, this guy's fast. He was fast at the combine. I mean, he's like football fast. He was running away from his guy in OTAs. So the question is always like, okay, when the pads come on, what does he look like? Well, that's going to happen Monday. Very well said that today, that the pads will come on Monday. I think for him, it's just obviously tight ends here have to block. He's going to have to block. You ask him about this. What's the hardest thing for you to pick up so far? And he said, well, I've always been able to run routes. So for me, I'm gonna keep working more on the blocking. I'm paraphrasing, but it was work harder on the blocking. The running routes thing has always come more natural to him, he said. What would be successful for him? I mean, if he got 40-something balls.
Oh, that'd be a huge season.
If he got 40 balls, I mean.
That would be that is over double what Jonnu Smith caught at 18 passes his rookie season.
Now, Chig came from a bigger program at Maryland than Jonnu did at FIU, and I'm not knocking FIU because my team was in the same conference with them for probably most of Jonnu's years, if not all. But Chig came from Maryland, obviously playing, at the highest level. Maybe that makes some kind of a difference. Jonnu had some speed in every physical attribute. Same as Chig. They're just both unbelievable physical specimens. Chig already seems to have some chemistry with Tannehill.
But I think the number of routes that he is going to get to run, because you can't only bring a tight end on the field and telegraph you're going to pass it.
Sure.
Unless it's 3rd and 12 and everybody already knows you're passing.
Right.
The knock on him as a prospect, and the weird thing that, is a metric that a lot of these draft guys look at is arm length, that his arms are too short to be a great inline blocker right off the bat. How well, and with Mike Vrabel, I think this is a given, how well he can block will determine how many opportunities he even gets. He'd have to have a lot of opportunities to catch 40. You can give me 40 right now, I would be tickled pink, because that probably means you almost got 100 catches from your tight ends.
I'll say this. If you can't block for Vrabel, you certainly won't play much. That's a great point. How do I say this? I think the tight ends will be deployed in a lot of ways. How about that? I think there'll be times you look up and go, "Oh, wait, that's a tight end right there." Mm-hmm. How about that? I feel like I can say it that way.
Are you foreshadowing some variety and creativity that a lot of people have pined for from Todd Downing?
I'm saying that could be a thing that happens this year, and I'm saying everybody needs to get used to seeing a lot of tight ends. I mentioned a player who stood out for me today, and I mentioned his name, and somebody in the hallway said, "Okay, but I mean, how important is that?" Cody Hollister had a fantastic day today. He's a big guy. He's fast. He runs the right routes. He knows everything about the offense. He and Ryan Tannehill have chemistry. Heck, he's been around here for years. Now, he's never really broken through, but he's the guy that's probably going to be on the practice squad if he passes through again. I would say, if you had to make me bet, is he going to be on the roster practice? I'd say practice squad. But here's the other thing I would say. Remember, he started games last year. Like, came off
in New England.
Yes.
Longest tenured receiver.
It's the longest
on the
tenured
roster.
receiver that they have.
You know who he reminds me of? And Vrabel mentioned this today. Nobody studies more than Logan Woodside. He's beat out everybody else that we had. Buck swore last year that Kaiser was way better than Woodside. And Woodside still beats him out. He beats out Matt
I thought Matt Barkley
I
would
bet
beat him out.
Hollister is a classroom guy. I'm sure they can just trust him. That being said, if he makes the team, that's a negative. I love the guy's probably the nicest guy in the world. I don't know. But if he makes the team, your wide receiver potential is limited in a way because he just is what he is.
6'4", 216. He can play special teams. He can do all that stuff. And it's funny when you go to an NFL training camp, you're always looking to see, like, okay, I'm going to write this down in my notes. This guy had a good day. Or Christian Fulton had a PBU, had a couple of interference calls. They were doing some individuals, and he had back-to-back plays where you could have called him for interference. So there's always things you're kind of writing down. And, like, Hollister was coming in and out of breaks and was catching. He caught a ball in traffic today from Malik Willis. They were doing one-on-ones, and he was tied up with the DB, and like the DB had his jersey pulling one way, and
that was a good
he
move,
was so strong. He pulled away from him and caught the ball, and it was just a bullet by Malik Willis, like right on him. And it's like he may be in one of those bad positions where, honestly, it doesn't matter what he does. There may just not be a spot for him on this team, but if they had their druthers, he's going to be around.
Yeah, I think they'd like to keep him on the practice squad. Ideally, you just have a more talented guy. Have either of you guys noticed Josh Malone? I'm just kind of thinking about this. I haven't paid enough attention. Have you guys noticed Josh Malone making any plays less?
I was going to say what you're saying about Cody Hollister. If he makes the team, it probably is because a guy like Josh Malone has a big drop-off or somebody gets hurt.
Or Racey McMath is just a total zero.
Yeah, just doesn't bring enough
Racey
value.
McMath ran across the middle of the day and dropped one, hit him in the hands. Then later he caught one just on a go.
That's Racey McMath.
That he caught right-handed, one-handed with the guy holding on to the other side of his body 45 yards down the field from Tannehill, and he dropped one over the middle to hit him in the hands. So, I mean, is he a good special teamer? Yeah, that's, kind of why he was
He's gonna
around.
probably be the gunner.
But
what about Malone?
I trust Cody Hollister much more to play wide receiver than Racey McMath.
Jimmy Wyatt did point out in his day 3 observations today one nice one-handed snag from Josh Malone today, for what it's worth.
If Racey McMath or Cody Hollister are on the field, that's not a good thing for the Titans.
Bad things
That's
have
why
happened.
they need more depth.
It looked like that at times last year, and it wasn't good.
And they were on the field last year, and that's one of the reasons why the offense looked like it did.
I will say, Racey McMath has a speed element that you could see him finding a niche, right? The guy is an absolute physical freak. He didn't catch many passes at LSU. He hasn't caught many passes in his rookie year with the Titans because he's never quite put it all together. But that's the only caveat I'll say. I could see him finding a niche in certain packages.
The other guy that everybody loves, and they're going to love again because he's going to play a lot in training in the preseason games, is Mason Kinsey. And Titans fans are going to lose their mind over Mason
There's
Kinsey.
one small receiver that every Titans fan loves every year.
And I like the underdogs as much as anybody. I mean, I'll tell you my story sometime if you don't know it. I consider myself the underest of underdogs. So I the Khalif Raymonds of the world and all these guys are people that I root for. I want them to get their chance and do the most with their chance. Like, what are you going to do with Mason Kinsey? You have so many guys that can already play in the slot. What percent of Traylon Burks' routes were in the slots at Arkansas? No, I don't think he's going to run on a slot. Maybe for mismatch purposes, but he's an outside guy in the NFL. But Robert Woods can probably be a guy that you put in the slot. And you drafted Kyle Phillips to be your slot receiver.
A lot of these guys are playing for spots on another roster.
Yeah. Well, and maybe this is a year that something like that would happen for Hollister, or it would happen for Mason Kinsey. We're a team that's just really, really bereft of wide receiver.
It's not that good.
Talent or injuries, and those guys get to come in, and Kinsey gets a shot at somebody's punt returner and, a shot at being like the number 2 slot guy. Both of those guys are going to have good days in camp because they know the offense because they've been here so long. Like, both of those guys are going to look good, and they're going to be going against 3s and 4s. Well, if somebody just got here and he's a 4 and he's an undrafted rookie, and I've been here like 3 years, I'd roast that sucker every day in practice. So just every day of training camp practice is kind of its own story. All right, we got a little game that we're going to play, going to do some either or coming up next. Which one of those things do you feel the best about? We need to tweet these out too and get some responses.
Yeah, we'll probably get some chatter on
All
this.
right, we'll get on our Twitter at Blaine and Mickey, and we'll ask you either or which of these things do you feel better about next Titans training camp. And Titans Talk rolls on Blaine and Mickey. So if you're having a problem with something, let's say you walk down in your basement and your basement was flooding, like water was pouring in. Would you just be like, walk back upstairs and call it a day? Or maybe you're going to leave work in about 5 minutes, or maybe in an hour and 5 minutes because you're going to listen to the rest of the show. And when you go to get in the car, your tire is leaking air or your engine is leaking oil. No, you're going to do something about it. Yet when a lot of men and women start to lose their hair, their honest response is to do absolutely nothing about it. Now think about that. Think about it. Do nothing. Well, I don't know. I don't have the money. I don't know where to go. I don't trust the process. Well, PAI, you can't afford it. They'll work with you on how you pay for it. It's the most cutting-edge technology at PAI when it comes to hair loss for men and women. Heck, I just challenge you. Here's your challenge for the rest of your Friday. Go to WeGrowHair.com. Look at real people with real success from PAI. Then you'll stop doing nothing about hair loss. Then you'll call them, 615-376-6010. Call PAI now. The only thing you'll regret is that you didn't call them sooner.
You mean like what? It is 2 o'clock. Good afternoon from the Superbook.com Sports Desk. I'm Lucas Panzica. Week 1 of Titans training camp almost in the books. The team will be back at it tomorrow morning at St. Thomas Sports Park after practicing indoors today due to weather. Titans did make one transaction today, signing defensive back Shakur Brown, the former Michigan State Spartan, when undrafted in 2021 and last played for the USFL's Pittsburgh Maulers. Fall camp in the SEC officially starts today as Vanderbilt gets underway. Tennessee football hitting the practice field on Monday. And Nashville Soccer Club returns home to Geodis Park Saturday night, hosting Vancouver for a 7:30 kickoff. NSC is currently 6th in the Western Conference. The Atlanta Braves are back in action tonight at home against Arizona, a 6:20 first pitch. Braves are 3 games back of the Mets in the NL East. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Tweeted the
Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone. Woo! Welcome to the 2 o'clock hour on Friday. This sprint is about to sprint.
We've had such a full house. It's flying by.
Had a full house, a box of donuts, and Lucas Panzica and Buck Rising was here, and Alex Apple's here for Blaine for one more day. Alex, fantastic job this year, this week, by the way, filling in for Blaine.
I appreciate it. It's been a good week to be on. We've had plenty to discuss.
There's been no
Appreciate
shortage.
Blaine taking a vacation on such a key week.
Heck, yeah. No shortage of things to discuss as the Titans hit the practice field this week for training camp. They were in the bubble today. It was a little rainy, a little muddy, and so they were inside the Titans bubble. Just an interesting note. They have turf in there, of course, and it's not made from the ground-up tires that a lot of turf is. It's made from ground-up coconut husks.
Yeah,
they actually have to water it.
So I didn't realize the Titans had put that in. I was familiar that some places have adopted that, and I was just reading a study about it. It's not necessarily clear that it's healthier for you, but it doesn't absorb. It absorbs water better, that keeps you from slipping. And Mickey, you were even saying that some people get those rubber pellets in like a scab, and that caused health concerns. I hadn't even thought about that.
I got rabbit holed one night when I couldn't sleep down a story from the Northwest. A female high school soccer player who practiced every day on a turf field was always diving. She was a goalie and stopping, and she developed all these health problems on her skin where she had all these scabs that never healed from the turf.
And got the little pellets inside.
And got the pellets
Wow.
inside it. So interesting. Now, I'm not throwing any turf under this was one person who had a problem, but it was an interesting story to me that she had some concern about her health from the rubber
The
pellets.
husks bounce up less.
Yeah, well,
That's another factor.
it's an interesting
Anyway.
thing to look at, and it doesn't smell like tires in the Titans bubble anymore. We'll get to some of these either-ors. Just a quick update. Chig Okonkwo, big day. He joined us in the first hour of the program right off the top. You will want to go back and catch that. We can probably grab a couple of his responses maybe and play in the second segment of the show, or of this hour. We'll call our shot in the final segment of this hour. Traylon Burks, another nice day. Another nice day. Real physical rep with Roger McCreary and one-on-one, like they kind of banged into each other. Then he made his cut and caught the ball, was able to get a couple of steps on McCreary. And this is a big dude running away from, well, a guy who was a fantastic SEC cornerback. Sure, they'd seen each other before. Traylon Burks caught a long pass running across the middle from Logan Woodside that would have been a touchdown. Now, Woodside had to pat the ball a couple times waiting for it, so maybe he would have been pressured in a game, but it was a nice route and a nice catch, and Traylon Burks would have scored on that. Cody Hollister, as we talked about in the final segment of the first hour, he just kept showing up today. Derrick Henry, Hassan Haskins, Trenton Cannon all had really nice runs. Derrick Henry had an explosive run off the right side today, and Hassan Haskins had a really nice run, and at times the defense stuffed every run play. Second and third team defense really showed up against the run today. The first team offense had a couple of sacks. Harold Landry had what would have been a sack. Joe Jones completely, like he shape-shifted himself into the backfield. Greg Maben had a couple of PBUs. Caleb Farley, Christian Fulton had PBUs. Really interesting note from Des Fitzpatrick, and I wrote this down. They were doing punt coverage drills, a specific drill to that, and he probably had the best rep of anybody in that drill covering what would have been the punt returner on the drill.
And that's huge for him.
Because that's how he's going to be on the team.
They spent some draft capital on him, right? That's
Yep.
how he's going to be on the team. The other thing that is a note that we went over pretty quickly there, but any inside linebacker not named David Long or Zach Cunningham that you're hearing making a play is substantial, because there's so much uncertainty there with Monty Rice currently not practicing. We don't know how long he'll be on the PUP. You can come off of the training camp PUP. Clyde Edwards-Helaire for the Chiefs was on it for like 6 minutes, almost literally, at any time. But there is real questions there at inside linebacker. We've not discussed it a ton. But look what you had last year. Jayon and Rashaan Evans both missed time, I believe. By the end of the year, you had two different starters than you even started the season with.
David Long has played 14 games and 14 games and 10 games last year. So who the number 3 inside linebacker is a big deal. Is it Dylan Cole? Is it Joe Jones?
Is it Joe Jones right now? If it's still, again, kind of like the Cody Hollister discussion. If it's, who was the other guy? I just lost my train of thought.
Dylan Cole.
Dylan Cole. If it's Dylan Cole, I'm a little worried.
I mean, they don't have a lot of bodies at inside linebacker.
No, they don't.
Monty Rice is on the PUP list to start camp, but outside of your starters, who are David Long and Zach Cunningham, there is a drop-off there. Monty Rice, you drafted Chance Campbell in the 7th round out of Ole Miss, and then Dylan Cole made some plays for you on special teams last year, but beyond that, and that's not necessarily a spot where you need the most depth.
But you do need somebody, especially if David
maybe
Long
they
played
have
10
one.
games last year.
You know who was available today that I saw that the Jets signed, a name that a lot of people will know. His career is evidently fallen off, and I've not been paying super close attention, but Quan Alexander signed for a 1-year deal with the Jets, former Saints linebacker, who was at one point a 100-tackle-a-season kind of guy. Was surprised that he was still out there. Maybe there's an element of his career that I'm not following, but I kind of could see the Titans adding a body there.
Yeah. And guys are going to get cut, and guys are going to come and go off rosters. But if Monty Rice came into camp healthy and he was the number 3 guy, based on his draft status, where they took him, the draft capital they spent, and what the expectations from him, I think you'd feel really good. But PUP list, like you said, you could be on it just today and come off. It could be 2 weeks. It could be a long time that you're on there. If you start the season on there, I don't think you can play for 6 weeks. So we'll all
4
keep,
now. You can
it's
come off
4.
after 4.
Okay,
It's a new
we've had
rule.
this discussion. You've corrected me once, and I need to remember that 4 weeks a month. So that'll be a real interesting thing. What happens with the number 3 inside linebacker? One injury note: Elijah Molden. The A to Z guys actually they do a good job of dividing and conquering. They had video of him kind of stumbling in a drill, and then he didn't come back. Elijah Molden. So it's one thing to keep an eye on. Maybe, I will be at a funeral tomorrow, but there'll be a myriad of people who are out there covering things. But keep an eye on Elijah Molden.
They're so cautious at this point. Wouldn't surprise me if he's not out there. Amateur Twitter doctor that I am.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't look horrible to me, but, they're going to be protective of a guy that they think is going to play 800 snaps for him this
On
year.
the last play of one-on-ones, Traylon Burks came down, and I couldn't see who the DB was because they were switching positions. The whistle had blown, and they let him run one more play, and he and the DB came down their feet right at the same time. And my son calls it a flat tire, where you step on the back of somebody's shoe. And
Oh, sure.
My son says he flat tires people because he walks so close to me all the time. He does it to me all the time. Traylon Burks essentially got flat tired, but he came up and pulled his foot up real quick, and you could hear
An audible groan.
from the media because we
Yeah.
were the only people watching the rip. Everybody else was switching their stations, so nobody saw it but us, and we were all like, "Oh, oh!" And I had the rep on my phone, but my thumb had switched it off as soon as he grabbed his foot. But Jim White was right in front of me. He rolled on the whole thing,
Yeah.
and I thought,
But
Well-
land the plane here. He was okay.
"Oh, trigger finger, Jim White, right there again to get all the video." It was amazing. And he just put his shoe back on and ran to the next drill. So it's like,
Oh, to be young.
sweet Lord, no. Then
No,
he just literally took his shoe off and shook the coconut holes out and put it back on and kept on
The
trucking.
only time I ever got injured in my brief athletic career was just coming down on somebody's foot playing basketball. It happened to me several times in high school.
I had no.
So easy to do.
My one superpower is my ankles were like rubber.
My tendons are so stretched out now, I can be walking down the street and roll an ankle.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I could roll it and it would just roll itself right back. All right. Here's what we're going to do. We got a little game, and we'll do this. We'll play the game in the second segment of this hour. We'll call our shot in the final segment of the hour. One more thing I wanted to mention in its versatility. A couple of rookies, Burks and Roger McCreary. We continue to see, I can say this, versatility from those guys. How about that? Versatility. Usage, versatility. And these are rookies. So they're having to learn just where the lunchroom is and things like that. But I think these are guys who will prove to be versatile to this offense.
Well, and that's huge early on
and
if
defense.
you're a rookie. We're about to get into a Traylon Burks debate here on the other side in this either-or segment. And his ability to know multiple positions and line up at multiple spots totally changes his ceiling. If he's a one-spot guy, there's only so many plays in the playbook where that's the first read, right? But if you can move around, if you have a great grasp of the playbook early on as a rookie, that's about the best thing that you can get from training camp.
Well, Alex Apple kind of started this discussion yesterday. He's filling in for Blaine. Blaine's our director of content, so Alex has been providing some content as well. He's been providing a director of content services while sitting in for the Hitman. And we got into this discussion, and what he brought up was this. So be thinking about this in the break. So what do you think has a better chance of happening? That Christian Fulton has 4 interceptions or Traylon Burks has 65 catches?
Well, I did it with Farley.
Oh, okay.
Caleb Farley.
Okay, I had it as Fulton. So let's say
Well, what do you think's the better debate?
Fulton.
All right, let's go Fulton then.
Because he is going to be, there are no,
Okay.
I'm going to knock wood. There's no concern about his,
True, we have no idea.
he's
how many
healthy
games
coming
Farley
into
can play.
camp. With Farley, he's
Yeah.
still rehabbing a knee. So I had written it down as 4 interceptions for Fulton or 65 catches for Burks.
Which would be 2 more than A.J. Brown had last year.
So then we started throwing some more around, and it's like 1,600 rushing yards for Derrick Henry or 9 sacks for Harold Landry. So it doesn't equal his year, but closer maybe to what his
Nine's
career
cooking.
average
That's
is.
pretty well. Yeah.
Then I thought about Tannehill. So another one that I had written down was 38. Lucas, did we settle on this 100 or 150 yards from Malik Willis?
I think 100 yards.
So 3,800 passing yards for Tannehill or 100 rushing yards for Malik Willis. Again, which one do you feel most confident would happen? And then another one that we came up with, does Zach Cunningham lead the team in tackles? Is that more likely, or is it more likely that Byard would lead the team in interceptions? So we're going to get into these next. We're going to go through them. We're going to tweet them out. We'll go through your responses. We're going to play a little game of either or. You want to jump on the line and play with us? Any of those sound like sure bets to you? Call in. Let us know. 615-737-1045. It's Blaine and Mickey. It is Friday. Oh, my goodness. Alex Apple sitting in for the Hitman. Blaine and Mickey 1045 The Zone. So here's what we're doing on this Friday. We're passing around some text last night, and this is just kind of how we'll organically come up with a topic. But Alex had a great idea, and I love either or things. I love to put Blaine and Lucas constantly on the hot seat, asking them like, "How many times do you think this happened in the last 10 years, or whatever it is?" And I make them answer. And
Well, you get into some good deep dives. I will say that you come in here with a stat that I've never heard of every day.
well, the darn Traylon Burke stat from Arkansas of what 44, what percent of his routes were.
Yeah, well, 44% of his routes were flats, slants, and screens. And this would be a good time to pub the guy that you're going to have on next Friday. I think the world of him. He runs reception perception. His name is Matt Harmon. He breaks down how receivers are deployed and their success rate on given routes, and can talk about receivers in a way I love listening to him, in a way that nobody else can, because he's got more data and he does it by hand. I can't imagine the time he spends on that.
So this is a question of, we got multiple polls now up on Blaine and Mickey. Maybe we're getting a little Buck Rising territory here. We're putting up polls today. We have multiple ones going. We have 4 different ones. One is via Alex Apple. That's retweeted on Blaine and Mickey, is at Alex Apple _. Of course, you need to follow him. The others are at Blaine and Mickey. Twitter, you can follow there. So here's the one that started it all. And you had sent it to me, I guess, as Farley, and I had said Fulton, but
I think this is a good debate.
We'll go with it in its original context. Which one is most likely to happen? And you put it out as 63 catches for Burks, 4 interceptions for Farley. So I had misquoted my own self. You asked me this yesterday. I immediately said I would take Burks. The interception thing seems so tough. Farley's going to be finding his way. Right now, it's 66% say what you round up going, not 65, but 60. That makes it even easier money for me. 63 catches for Burks. 66% of respondents say that is more likely to happen than 4 interceptions for Farley, which is now at 68 and 32%. Curious to get the thoughts of you gentlemen on this.
Okay, I'll start. My answer is 4 interceptions. For Traylon Burks to get 63 interceptions, it shows that number because what A.J. Brown had last year in 13 games.
Catches, 63 catches.
63 catches.
He had 63 interceptions.
Man, 63
That
interceptions.
would be something,
All-time
wouldn't it?
season, Titans be pretty freaking good.
Dick Knight, Trey Lane would roll over in his grave.
They'd probably win the Super Bowl if somebody does that. For Burks to get 63 interceptions requires him to be better than A.J. Brown was as a rookie. And I think that he is more apt to be a guy like A.J. Brown that is getting 50 catches. It may be for that may almost be for 1,000 yards because he's more of a big play threat. The question I don't know about him, and that we don't know until we start to see them later in the preseason, or certainly maybe in the regular season, is how many different spots is he going to be deployed in? Because if you can't trust him to block well on an off-tackle run when he's in the slot, he ain't going to go there. Right, and so there's so many intangibles right there that I think it's more apt for Farley to have 4 interceptions. If the answer was Fulton, I'd go Fulton for 4 interceptions. I really believe in the potential of those 2 cornerbacks too.
Yeah, I mean, A.J. Brown had 63 catches last year. He had 52 as a rookie. 70 was his career high in catches in 2020. I feel like Tannehill's going to have the luxury of being able to distribute the ball more, especially early, with Austin Hooper and a healthy Robert Woods and rookie Kyle Phillips and whatever Chig Okonkwo can provide for this offense. So I agree. I think Caleb Farley, who they're going to need to play well, they're so young in that room at corner. I don't think they have a guy older than 23 in that room.
Right.
After Buster
Greg Maven's
Screen,
the oldest one.
Yeah, and you don't know that he's going to make the team after Buster Screen retired. So they just out of necessity, I think it's more likely that Caleb Farley gets more snaps there, gets more looks there, as this is his first time really playing consistent snaps, assuming he stays healthy. He'll probably get targeted a good bit as opposed to Christian Fulton. So I think the opportunity might be there more for Caleb Farley to get 4 interceptions as opposed to Traylon Burks getting 11 more catches than A.J. Brown did his rookie year.
And the Titans don't really feed a guy. They don't force feed a guy like some offenses will. I don't think you'll see that with Fulton. With Burks. Why would you? They didn't even do it with A.J. Brown last year.
Well, they did in some games. They did in the 49ers game.
They did. That is true. They did it in the 49ers game. I think that they should more. I remember a quote from Marcus Mariota when he threw I think it's the one touchdown that Andre Johnson caught in
Detroit.
Detroit, where they were
Titans
holding
uniform,
both of his arms.
the game winner. He said, well, I looked up and he was the only Hall of Famer that I saw. I agree. Sometimes I wish in the fourth quarter against the Bengals, instead of forcing the ball into Nick Westbrook-Akina, I'd probably just throw it to my best guy. I wish you'd see it more often. Side note. What's next?
The sheer reason I wouldn't pick defense on that is because 4 interceptions is just a lot. No Titan had more than 2 last year except for Kevin Byard. He had 5. So then I went back to the year before. Malcolm Butler had 4 and Amani Hooker had 4. That was that crazy year where Amani Hooker kept finding the ball. Nobody else had more than 1 that year.
It's a lot for a corner.
It just seems like a lot.
Yeah.
It is a lot for a corner, but you do get some skew. Like Trayvon Diggs was not that good as a cover corner last year. He was getting beat often. And what did he lead the league in interceptions, I think, with 8? Or at one point he led the league, and he's had 5 in his first 6 games.
Let's go to the next one. What's more likely to happen? Again, you can play along at Blaine and Mickey or via at AlexApple_. He has shared in the distribution of these questions. What's more likely to happen? Derrick Henry, 1,600 rushing yards or 9 sacks for Harold Landry, who had 12 last year. Derrick Henry coming off a foot injury. I'll tell you what the public says, 70-30 in favor of Derrick Henry.
Oh, wow.
They feel better about
Do you agree
Derrick
with that,
Henry's
Lucas?
foot and number of carries than they do about Derrick Henry, or about Harold Landry, rather, even getting close to double digits.
I disagree with the public here.
I disagree with that. I think Harold Landry, the Titans return essentially the same situation at edge rusher as they had last year, and you basically have a new player in Rashad Weaver. So I don't see why Harold
And
Landry.
a healthier Bud.
Yeah, and a healthier Bud Dupree. And you can just look at the numbers. With Bud Dupree and Harold Landry on the field together, Harold Landry was far more productive. Like Bud Dupree's impact on the Titans was not defined by his 3 sacks or whatever it ended up being. It was defined by what he did to complement Harold Landry on the other side. So if they're able to pick up where they left off there as far as personnel, I don't see why Harold Landry can't replicate what he did last year. And 9 sacks would be going down by 3 from what he did last year. I mean, if Derrick Henry rushes for 1,400 yards, that's a great year. He's a candidate for comeback player of the year, like we talked about yesterday.
He goes for 1,400. I think he'll win it.
Yes.
Even 1,400.
1,600's a lot.
I think that number's too high. I mean, I think you're going to get 300, 400 yards probably from Dontrell Hilliard. You probably get some from their new toy out of Michigan. 1,600 for Derrick. I mean, if it also goes back to how many carries you think he's going to get. 300? Think he's got 300 in the tank this year?
They're going to feed it to him. I mean, that's not
Because
gonna...
even if he gets 300, that's 5.2 yards a carry. That is cooking. That's why I go Landry, 9 sacks. He's done that twice. He even did it in his second year. He didn't do it in his third year, but none of the Titans.
4.5, 9, 5.5, and 12. That's Landry's numbers. So both of you think Landry over Derrick Henry. And let me tell you, Derrick Henry's numbers by season, you'd probably have to go back 3 years, maybe. I don't think any. So Derrick Henry had 490 in year 1. It's 744 in limited use in year 2. He started 2 games as a rookie. He started 2 games. It's really amazing to think about that now. He had 215 carries in his third year and had 1,059 yards. And then, Alex, 2019 really goes to more like in the wheelhouse of you're talking about. In 2019, he was 303 for 1,540. 303 carries. So like you said, what about
How many
3?
games he played that year?
He played 15. But if you add
2
another
games.
game on
That's right.
there, and now they played 2 more games,
Mm-hmm.
then he easily would put that rascal at over 1,600 yards. Then 378 for 2027. And then last year when they gave him 219 carries in 8 games for 937 yards.
The Titans showed last year that they could be effective running with Foreman and Hilliard and the other cast of rotating characters that they had in there. So I just think that you're going to see more Hilliard and Haskins.
I think you're just going to see all the Derrick Henry they can throw
So
at you.
is your answer
And
Henry?
my answer is Derrick Henry.
Yeah, if he's healthy, he's getting all the carries.
I think he's going to get them all. He got them all last year when he was healthy.
He wants all the carries.
He wants all of the carries. Now, will they have some stuff for other people? Yeah. But I don't think they're going to keep 5 running backs. I know a lot of people have mocked them to 5 running backs. I think it's going to be Hilliard or Trenton Cannon. Torrey Carter's not going to go anywhere. And Hassan Haskins isn't going anywhere. But There's just going to be games that they're like, do we trust the rookie or are we going to give it to this big monster over here 29 times? He's just going to get it 29 times. By the way, it was up to 77% for Derrick Henry. It's dropped to 71. You've convinced a couple people literally in about 45 seconds there.
Well, and maybe Downing just likes that Marcus Mariota quote about Andre Johnson being the only Hall of Famer he sees. I think a lot of times the Titans look up and the only Hall of Famer they see on the sideline is 22.
Okay.
Might as well give him the ball.
And he was on track to having a career year receiving the ball, too. So I don't see him leaving the field a whole lot.
Well, and here's the thing. It's like the alligator that learned how to climb the fence. Like these things are just figuring out new ways to kill us. That's Derrick Henry. He's the alligator who's now learned how to climb the fence. Because think about it. His early pass reps were go out, turn around, hold up both hands, and they would throw it into his hands. There were no wheel routes. Now, they run that kind of stuff with Hilliard when he's in. They'll run different things with him. I remember watching last year, not Hilliard, the other guy who bails them out every year for the last 8 games.
Was it you talking about
the other running
last year, Deontay Foreman?
Deontay Foreman.
He's a Carolina Panther.
There were a couple times where
where
he went and lined up wide. I remember thinking, I'm like, that's number 7 who's lined up. So they did different things with him. I think they're going to start doing with that Derrick Henry so they don't have to take him off the field on third down.
But I want to ask you guys this because I want to hold you to it. If you think that they're just going to feed Derrick Henry, are you saying that you think that's the smart thing to do or you think that's what they're going to do? Because if you're saying that's the smart thing to do, well, then if, let's say, he's got 200 carries through 7 games and then he gets hurt, you can't come on the air here and say that they misused him, right? They should have backed him off. I'm saying that I think that I don't know if this is what they're going to do. I think the smart thing to do is to just to use him left, however painful that might be. Even if it costs you a win. Maybe you win last year if it had been 11 wins instead of 12. You might have had Derrick Henry in a way that you didn't have him for part of the season. I think you have to consider that.
If Blaine was here, he'd throw a brick through the window. They don't think about that. They just think, how's the best way for us to win the game? And they're going to say,
you don't think that that's a little bit malpractice to not think about that?
Everything we've ever heard from Todd Downing, what did Todd Downing say at some point last year? He's like, I've never heard in my head said, hey, let's give it to him. Dial it back a little.
Dial it back on 22.
They will never,
doesn't matter if it's smart or not. That's just how they do.
You don't think that's seeped into his subconscious?
Nope. No, he was on pace for 465 carries last year.
The older he gets, the more they're going to give it to him. The more his quote unquote shelf life as a running back gets shorter and shorter, the more they're going to try to use it as much as possible, and that's what he wants.
I know, but
he's under contract for 2 more years.
You're not going to win anything if you don't have him. You got to have him.
He's under contract for 2 more years. They're going to squeeze everything, every carry they can.
Well, and he's been available till he wasn't last year. So however he bounces
that may
back,
be a fluke. We don't know.
And again, you're talking to us like we're Vrabel and Todd Downing. We're not. We're just telling you.
I'm talking to you like you've made a prediction that I think requires you to be on board with just use him as much as possible. It sounds like you both are. I just was asking. I don't think I am.
I didn't
Maybe
want him
I'll change after 3 weeks.
When he was going for 2,000 yards, I said, I don't like this because I remember what it did to DeMarco Murray. I remember what it did to CJ2K. And DeMarco didn't get 2,000, but he had the 300 and whatever the threshold is, like 370. He had one of those carry seasons and had almost 1,900 yards. Nobody's ever the same after that. So I wasn't in favor of 2,000 yards. So if you're asking me what's your philosophy, my philosophy is not to let somebody rush for 2,000 yards because it's just too much for the human body. But it doesn't matter what I think. We've seen what they think.
Well, he averaged over 27 carries per game just last year in the 8 games he played. So I was caught between. I remember I was doing like a hashtag Derrick Henry watch after every game, saying Derrick Henry has rushed for X amount of times for X amount of yards. He's on pace for X amount of yards by the end of the season before the injury. So I was caught between A, thinking this does not look very sustainable, and B, being in amazement at what was happening because he was on the fast track to like not 2,000 yards, but like 2,300 yards.
Yes,
last
I remember
year.
You telling us that.
I mean, it got to a point where his average was astounding as far as what he was on pace for. So you're kind of caught in the middle of this doesn't look sustainable. And also, like, I want them to keep doing it because I want to see how far this can go.
My counterpoint to my own argument that you'll see more Haskins and look, let's listen.
My counterpoint to my other argument.
To my own argument, I'm trying to offer a well-reasoned discussion here would be not that you'll see more Haskins or Hilliard, just that they'll throw it more, that they might throw it 575 times as opposed to 525 or whatever they did last year. which alters his workload. And maybe that's the more effective way to do it because he can be on the field, run 2 yards, block, grab himself a breath, and you're in 2nd and 5 instead of having to just pound the man.
I wrote this down last night. They threw it 535. They ran it 551. Maybe they flipped those numbers, but they threw it 535 and ran it 551. In the modern NFL, they ran it more than they threw it. So that's why, again, it's now up to 75%. Henry will get 1,600 yards. Has a better chance of happening than 9
this
sacks
is also
for
about
Landry.
Honor Landry. I think he's going to have 9 sacks. I would be really surprised if he doesn't have 9 sacks.
The only reason he wouldn't is because Bud Dupree, I think, takes a
Cleaned
step
up some
forward.
of them before he could get there. Maybe Danico Autry or okay.
Yeah.
Let's get
or
to
they
the next
rotate
one.
him more. You'd love to be able to rotate your defensive line more. We have
Either
one more?
Either or. Do what?
We got one more.
No, we got 2 more.
We'll get 2 more.
Oh, yeah. Just the fun never stops. More likely to happen. Tannehill, 3,800 passing yards, or Malik Willis, 100 rushing yards.
I'll go. I think it's Tannehill. Easy. I just don't think Malik Willis sees the field that much. Training camp is showing us how long Malik Willis has to go to earn this staff's trust. And we know what it takes to earn this staff's trust at that position especially. So, yeah, I think it's Tannehill because I just don't think, barring injury, obviously, and even then, it's Woodside. It's Woodside's backup job to lose. If there's anything we've learned over the last few years, it's that. I just don't think Malik sees the field enough.
And for him to get 100 rushing yards requires them to have a package in there where he basically comes in and runs it.
Yeah, which isn't impossible.
It's not impossible, but is it smart? Would you rather have Malik Willis run the ball than Derrick Henry? Would you rather have him run it than Ryan Tannehill? I don't know that the answer is yeah. It's not obvious to me. So that's eliminated. I'll go 3,800 yards for Ryan Tannehill.
Right now, 3,800 pass yards for Ryan Tannehill is running away at 76% to 24. So you really think about Malik Willis, it's like, how many plays would he have to have where he ran to get to 100 yards? And I think if you start doing the math in your head, it's probably like, I mean, over the course of a season, would 12 runs
30?
get it? Would 13? Would 14 runs get it?
100 yards? No, because I think it would be more of a short yardage.
Or you think he's going to get like, they need 3 yards and he'll get 3 yards.
That's
They
how I
need
would
2 yards
use
and
it.
he'll get 3 yards. Is how they would use him.
I was
In
gonna say 30.
for quarterback sneaks.
Kind of.
All right.
And he's kind of got a low center of gravity. His legs look strong. Maybe you can push a nickel back over the line.
What I'll be interested to see is do they, and I'm not giving anything away. I'm just saying I would be interested to see they get inside the 5-yard line. Do they put him out there and let him run some read option stuff?
But wouldn't you just rather have Tannehill do that?
Tannehill can do it great. I'm just saying, is that how they would do it? Because I'm thinking, how could he get to 100? Because I think Tannehill, I'm on the 76% that say 3,800 for Tannehill as opposed to 100 rushing yards for Willis. Because listen to Mike Vrabel talk about Logan Woodside today. He's the best studier on the team, and nobody studies harder, and he knows the plays.
He doesn't even have an independent film study clause.
No, he doesn't need one.
He's putting in his 4 hours.
Yeah,
He is
4 hours a
putting
day.
He is putting in his 4 hours.
Maybe not a week.
So Ryan Tannehill running away with this one, 76% over. This one's probably the most surprising to me because there's so many people who are like, y'all are stupid. Malik Willis will be the starter this year. Maybe people are like watching and listening.
That's what I'm saying. I think people are paying attention. We were talking about it earlier, too. Nobody puts out training camp videos like Titans media,
Yeah.
right? Like, it
Yeah,
is just
I
a
heard
boom.
you and Will discussing
Nate
that.
Washington tweeted about it earlier. He's like, love the Titans media. I'm seeing everything from training camp. Hey, Steelers media, what's going on?
Yeah.
I want to see Mitch Trubisky. I want to see Kenny Pickett. But yeah, people are seeing the issues Malik Willis is having, throwing while rolling left, footwork, presence in the huddle, taking snaps from under center, which he never did in college. So I think people are paying attention. So you've seen those cries get dialed back a good bit.
And it's, again, we have to keep saying this. It's not a knock on him. He
No.
just has to get, he has to learn to play quarterback at this level.
We may be having a very different discussion a year from now. Hope we are.
100%. You got to hope.
But that
you
would
got
be
to
a
hope
great
that.
blessing for him to have a year to develop in.
Yeah. At least the preseason will be a lot more interesting this year than it was last year,
It's gonna be
watching the
real-
league develop.
It's going to be
It'll
really
go from
interesting.
insufferable to slightly
Yeah, a
insufferable.
little more entertaining than a Matt Barkley, Logan Woodside competition.
And as a third-round pick, he doesn't have to come out and be John Elway this year. Doesn't have to happen. He can be a guy who they figure out some usage for, and he learns as he goes this year. All right, here was the other one that we put out. This is another. It's funny. These are not close. Byard leads the team in interceptions versus Cunningham leads the team in tackles. Now, it's not uncommon at all. Kevin Byard had 5 interceptions last year. Nobody else had more than 2. How do you guys lean on this? Byard leads the team in interceptions, which is more likely, that or Zach Cunningham leads the team in tackles?
I'm going to say more likely that Cunningham leads the team in tackles, because if he doesn't, then you might have problems. Like if Kevin Byard leads the team in tackles, it's not a good thing, which we saw in 2020. And I don't think this defense is going to take a step back. If anything, I think they take a step forward. So again, barring injury, if Zach Cunningham leads the team in tackles, or I'll say if he doesn't, then I can't imagine that that's a positive trend for the Titans. And I think that
You wouldn't think
the defense
so.
is going to trend positively this year.
I think they got a lot of playmakers on the back end. I think that it's possible for Byard to lead them in interceptions. I think he's a great player. I mean, it might even be likely that he leads them in interceptions. But I think it's more likely that Cunningham leads them in tackles. I mean, you're talking about a guy that in 2020 had 164 tackles, 106 solos, which led the NFL. I was really over the moon when he came here last year. I think he gives them an attacking element that fits that defense so well. I think their run defense will be a little better this year. I think it was just okay last year. That's an area they can definitely take a step forward. If Long and Cunningham are healthy, I think that's a pretty good competition for the leader in tackles, but I'll take Cunningham. I just think he's got a nose for the ball.
I'll also take Cunningham on this one, although I'll tell you guys this. It's not close. Byard leads the team in interceptions, is blowing out Cunningham leads the tackles. To me, this seems like the easiest money because
Yeah.
there are things that Byard can't control playing on the back end of the defense. Zach Cunningham can control how many people he just goes
who
and
they think
destroys.
will lead them in tackles then. Or maybe it's just about Kevin Byard.
Who
It
would-
might just be,
I mean, be David Long? I don't know.
confidence in Byard.
I think it's a whole lot of people's compliment or people's belief in Kevin Byard. That's a compliment to Kevin Byard because this is safety, not a cornerback. If you had to just say, who do you think leads the team in interceptions, I'd probably take Byard because it's the safest bet. But I might take Christian Fulton this year. I might take Fulton. Although Vrabel has said the way that their guys are asked to play cornerback, they're probably not going to get a lot of interceptions.
Yeah, and I don't know that they throw Fulton's way much this year.
Yeah,
But interceptions ebb and flow too. If you want to go look at a good example of this, like look at Ed Reed's career stats. He'd go 9-3, 8-3. Sometimes the ball just bounces your way. It happened with Kevin Byard 2 years ago. It didn't bounce the ball his way. Last year, a little bit better luck. There's a degree of unpredictability there that I think compared to who's going to lead him in tackles, lay my money on Cunningham.
We had one more left that we didn't tweet out, and it was it's just like when you're making an album and you record 16 songs and you put 10 on the record. The other one was Tannehill. Does he have 30? Does he have 30 touchdown passes, or Malik Willis have 3 touchdown passes? Maybe we needed to amend that. Does Ryan Tannehill has 30 touchdown passes? The rest of the team, that includes gimmicks, that includes Logan Woods, because they've had
A
some
fake
gimmick.
punt.
They've
Yeah.
had gimmick touchdown passes.
A King, or Derrick Henry jump pass.
Maybe that would be maybe that's the other one that we need to come up with.
Yeah.
Tannehill 30, the rest of the team 3. We'll put that one out in the break, and when we come back, we'll call our shot. It's how we wind up every Friday. It is Blaine and Mickey on 104.5 The Zone. Blaine and Mickey 104.5 The Zone. It's your birthday. I'm Brett Bachelor on the Wheels of Steel. Did I miss something? Is it
someone's
Big Jeff's birthday yesterday?
It's been a birthday week.
Tannehill's
we had
birthday.
Bucks recently. We had Jeffrey Simmons. We had Will Bowlings. We had Ryan Tannehill. It's been a birthday barrage.
Blaine's
My brother's was
birthday
2 weeks ago.
was
So
last weekend. Happy birthday to your brother.
Blaine was it was this past Monday, right?
Monday. Yeah, he was out celebrating.
it's a birthday barrage.
It's a birthday barrage. Thank you, sir.
Actually, I saw Blaine tweet Brad Willis. I think it's Brad's birthday.
Yeah, Brad Willis' birthday is today as well.
It's a big week.
Goodness gracious.
Titans Radio's Brad Willis.
You can keep hitting those either or segments on Twitter at Blaine and Mickey. Real curious to get your thoughts on that. Again, if you're just joining us, did a fun segment of, is this more likely to happen or is that more likely to happen? Check out Blaine and Mickey Twitter. Follow us there and play along. This final segment every Friday is brought to you by Chattanooga Whiskey. It's called Call Your Shot. Brought to you by Chattanooga Whiskey 91, an award-winning small batch bourbon available at your local retail store. Maybe you will enjoy some responsibly this very weekend. Time to call our shot. I'm going to put Brett Bachelor. He's looking at me like, oh, I've got one. Sometimes he tweets one at us, our own Brett Bachelor. What is your shot, Brett Bachelor, as we roll into the weekend?
So I have the PGA Tour on in front of me right here. I have a good friend of mine that we grew up at the same club, played junior golf together. His name's Lee Hodges. Played collegiately at UAB for 2 years, transferred to Alabama, was one of the top players in the SEC, one of the top players in the country, helped Bama make it to nationals. He's a rookie on the PGA Tour right now. He actually just hit a shot on a par 3. He's 2 shots off the lead. He's having a fantastic week, having a fantastic rookie season. I'm going to call my shot and say my friend Lee Hodges gets his first professional win on the PGA Tour this weekend.
Is this blatant homerism, or do you think he can actually? What?
He can actually. He's already won on the Korn Ferry Tour. He's shown that he's done. He's already locked up his card for next year. So part of it's homerism, but he's really that good too.
How long till he goes to live?
For a guaranteed $16
Be careful
million.
with that answer.
Yeah. I'll plead the fifth on that one.
Is this like the Buick Open
This
of
is
Northern
this is Rocket
Southeast
Mortgage in
Ohio?
Detroit.
Okay.
You're close. You're close.
Okay.
Bubba Watson.
The Oldsmobile Classic. He went to live.
Latest one.
Yeah. So did Henrik Stenson.
Henrik Stenson.
Henrik
not see
Stenson went to
Stenson.
live and then complained that the European Tour said he couldn't do stuff with them anymore when he knew that was going to be an option.
I bet Bubba Watson was brought to tears when he signed that. As he is every 6 seconds.
Bubba Watson. Hey, man.
Nothing wrong with
He's
that.
an emotional guy. Lucas Panzica, what is your called shot?
My called shot is Bud Dupree in his first fully healthy season for the Tennessee Titans. Registers 8 sacks in 2022. Cleans up a little bit more. I think it'll be a little more balanced between he and Harold Landry. And I think Bud Dupree has a big year for this defense.
What do you think the narrative would be then on Bud Dupree if he has 8 sacks?
That he needed to have 10. What did he have last year? 2.5 or 3.5?
3, I think.
3. Okay. Okay.
You guys were
Split
just
the
talking about
difference.
some guy, Tic Tac Titans, that thinks he won't be here next year. His dead cap would be $10 million.
What would his cap be?
20.
Okay.
Save you 10.
Okay.
Well, but I mean, it saves you 10, but it costs you 10 to just have a guy not play for you.
Yeah.
Which is pretty bad as well. I mean, he's kind of in a tweener year. I mean, he will be interesting. I do think he's healthier. I tend to agree with you. I think he's going to have a good season. But if he doesn't, there's real discussion there about how that contract moves forward. You got 3 years left.
Depending on what they get out of Rashad Weaver as well,
Sure.
what they think about him.
Maybe if you have an obvious replacement, it's easier.
Boy, Rashad Weaver's a real interesting cat, too. Like, physically,
No one flashed more than him early in the preseason last year.
he somebody asked me, like, okay, you keep talking about him physically. If people remember, like, Derek Morgan, like the long legs and the long arms, and he's just a mountain of a man, and, like, the big butt and the big thighs, he's super, super thick. Like Blaine likes, he's a thigh guy and a butt guy.
Yeah.
Rashad Weaver he looks more like a 4-3 defensive end. Does that make sense?
He's as tall as Jeffrey Simmons.
He looks more like a 4-3 defensive end. He looks like Derek Morgan was drafted here to be 4-3 defensive end, and then they switched defensive schemes. And then what he did and continued to play for like 6 more years, and he didn't eat a hamburger, and he ate eggplant so he could run faster and
His
all
wife's
this.
a chef. That helps. Too.
Yeah, so she made all the eggplant, but that's when you realize, like, my man said, like, no more quarter pounders because I'm going to be a 3-4 outside guy, and I got to lose some butt and some thighs, and I got to eat some kale and he did it.
You guys like eggplant?
Not really. I don't dislike it, but if you're going to serve me like an eggplant parm,
Oh, yeah.
that's the best iteration of it. I've been served some
Well, I mean,
other
smother it
eggplant
with
dishes
cheese.
that aren't as good.
I love
any
eggplant.
vegetable is good with cheese on it.
I love eggplant.
Of course you do. I want things made with meat and frontline meats.
What does that mean? Like top
We
of
don't
the
have
line?
enough time.
Oh, God.
If we go to a
I'm
bar,
not
I'm just going to tell you, if we go to a barbecue restaurant, either one of you turkeys order turkey, I don't even know.
Oh,
you.
yeah. Come on.
At a
No, but
barbecue restaurant.
I do get the link sausages. I'll tell you, have you guys been to the Smoking Oasis over there on Charlotte?
I have yet to travel to that oasis.
Oh, that's good.
Okay.
That's where you can get you some barbecue.
Lonzo says eggplant with a million barf emojis. He says not that imposter meat crap.
It
Look,
doesn't. Don't consider it
Well, it's not
imposter meat.
imposter meat,
It's just
yeah.
a vegetable that tastes good.
It's imposter
overthink
meat.
this.
No, it's imposter meat if you use it in the place of meat. It's an insult to meat if you make a parmesan out of it.
So turkey is not frontline meat? Is that
no,
the
it's
answer to that?
no. It has one day a year. It's technically a second
So a
day.
frontline meat is like what, beef to you?
Beef,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pork.
beef with fat on it.
Red meat. Gosh darn it.
Beef, pork if it's done right in the form of a pork chop. Those
What
are
about pulled pork.
pulled pork is fine. That's a frontline meat.
That's acceptable.
Any iteration of beef, pulled pork,
Sausages.
sausages are fine, and they can have
Brisket.
They're like the bologna of meats. They could have many things inside them. The other one is, and this is just my own ruling. It's my rule, so don't say some jackassy thing to me in his own TV chat about it. Chicken wings, because guys will eat those as a meal. Chicken wings are always acceptable as a frontline meat option. No other form of chicken is. There's no argument. This is not up for debate.
You
Fried chicken?
Are you a seafood guy?
Oh, no, fried chicken's fine, too.
Yeah.
Yeah, fried chicken is a
Seafood?
frontline meat. Yes, but I don't think of seafood as a frontline meat.
Yeah. It's its own category.
It's its own category.
Well, now we're getting a call, and we've just spent 2 minutes on frontline meat. Let me
I
call my
guarantee
shot
you this call's about
real
meat.
quick.
Oh, yeah, okay.
My shot real quick is the Angels are terrible. The Los Angeles Angels. Mike Trout might be out for the year. They are now, according to reports, at least tolerating a call on Shohei Ohtani,
Good
who would be
Lord.
the most valuable asset anyone has ever traded for at a trade deadline because he would be a top-line pitcher and a great hitter. My shot, though, is that despite all of the talk about how interesting this MLB trade deadline could be, Juan Soto and Shohei Ohtani, who would be two of the best players to ever be traded, both remain with their teams.
If you're the Angels and you let the most interesting player since Babe Ruth walk out your door, change the name to the Devils and start wearing like all red and black and put like hooves on your cleats instead of cleats.
The problem with the Angels is they only got two guys.
I know, but they have two.
And they're arguably
The
two
Mickey
biggest stars
Mantle
in
Yeah,
baseball.
they-
of
right.
modern. They have Mickey
They got the two
Mantles.
best guys in baseball. They can't make the
They're
playoffs.
so bad.
Think about that. They have the only guy who's close to Mickey Mantle, maybe since Albert Pujols when he was young. Mike Trout is Mickey Mantle again, and they have
And they have
Babe Ruth.
Yeah.
And
And they're
just
terrible.
hot garbage.
I mean, can you make any comparison? Is there like an NBA team, an NFL team that had just arguably the league's two biggest stars and were just terrible?
Yes, the 60s Bears.
No, but that's
They
a-
had Dick Butkus and Gale Sayers.
We're off on a topic here. Aren't we talking about a real problem with baseball? You can't get your two biggest stars in the playoffs.
Well, they play at
They're
midnight.
on the same
Nobody ever
team.
even sees
You
them.
can't even make it.
How much time have we got left, Brett? Because I know some of these breaks are like 18 seconds.
You got a couple more minutes if you want to take this call right here.
Okay. I'll take Gator
If you
Mike's
want
call,
to.
then I'll tell you my shot.
Gator, frontline meat.
Gator Mike, what's going on, brother?
Mickey, I'm glad you're talking about the barbecue thing because I had that discussion the other day. The other comparison I have to that is a margarita pizza, right? What in the world? There's no meat. There's really no veggies. You got olive oil, Romano cheese. You got all that crap. It's a fake pizza. It's not even a real pizza.
But
Get-
it is also
get-
quintessential pizza. I mean,
I'm
that was
good.
like
Gator
one
Mike,
of the first iterations.
I'm
Lucas
gonna turn my mic
Panzica,
off.
the Italian stallion, is fuming
That got,
right now.
that got an eyebrow raise from Lucas.
Oh my gosh, you should
I-
see his face. It looks like you've
I don't even want to talk because I'm
Looks
afraid
like-
of what I'll say.
told him Chef Boy
Give us 30
RD is a
seconds of a
pasta
on a
artist.
margarita pizza.
This is you have offended him.
It's the best pizza on the planet.
If you have great basil and great olive oil, I agree. I've had a lot of mediocre margarita pizzas, but you get it at the right spot, I can get on board with that.
Here's my shot, gang. Boy, Lucas, you got to get right with the Lord, man. You look like you are verklempt about
You need
this.
to step out.
Yeah. You
my
and
mic
Gator
off.
Mike may have to have a moment here after this. After that, the Italian stallion, Lucas Panzica. Here's my shot: 30 touchdown passes for Ryan Tannehill. He's only done it one other time in his career. It was 33 in 2020.
And I'm expecting at least that. I think they've got to have that. 32.
32, says Alex Apple. You want to throw a
That's not
number
my
on that?
shot. I'm just saying.
You're just shooting
to
an
be a pretty
extra
good
shot.
team.
You're a double barrel shotgun.
I don't know that I'd be happy with 30.
He's only ever done 30 once. I'm saying
I wouldn't be pissed.
he's
but I'm
going
not
to
sure I'd be
get
happy.
30. It's like 33, then 27, and then no more than 24 other than that. You're telling us
I'm
to
blaming that
stall,
on Adam Gates.
giving people a look behind the curtain.
I'm blaming that on Adam
Another
Gates.
short break. Just keep talking, guys. Dude, what's Hunk saying? Is that piece, or you're telling us 2 more minutes? What are we doing here? This is like TV chat. Okay, I'm going to give you guys a look inside the curtain here. I worked in local TV news. So sometimes they finish like, let's get a last look at the weather with Lucas Panzica. And he goes, it's going to be super hot. And they go, see you tomorrow. And then they get cut off because Alex Apple did this too. That means somebody in the air was like, get out now, get out now. Because you have to join like Jimmy Kimmel next or whatever. That comes on at the same time. You don't control that. It comes on when it comes on.
They'll cut you off.
Or when they come back from the last story and it's like, so, Fred, are you going to go golfing this weekend?
I like when they go to video of 3 turkeys running in a track in Dixon, and this was the Dixon County Turkey Trot 12th annual. They got to go a minute and a half on that thing because they're just killing time.
In a world where everything is scripted, when somebody suddenly says in your ear, hey, man, you guys are going to have to talk for a couple minutes here. And it's like
That's
the
where
Saturday
the true
Night
talent comes out.
It's like the Saturday Night Live sketch. Where are the words? Where the teleprompter goes away. Have you ever seen that? And they like rip each other's arms off. All right. I'm getting like the wrap-up signal, I think, fairly soon. Hunk was holding up one finger. I hope it wasn't the finger that I don't want it to be, but it's time for us to go. 3HL's coming up next. Great job this week by Alex
Thanks
Apple.
for having me. I enjoyed it.
Great job by Buck and the crew being out and here, and Lucas Panzica and everybody making that happen, and Brett Batchelor back here.
Great question to Chig Okonkwo earlier in our show, too. You asked him how he gets his pants on. Answer, not easily.
Well, ask him where he buys jeans. All right, it's time for us to go buy some jeans. 3HL coming up next. Have a great weekend. In the meantime,
In between time.